Vasudevendra Yogendram Natva Jnana Pradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattvabodho Bhidiyate. Atma kaha. What is Atma? And so far, we have talked about generally what is the direct nature of Atma, right? Atma Swarupa. Swarupa means the nature of Atma. And furthermore, it's then said what Atma is not. So, see, what the author wants to convey here is we, right, as you know, as an individual, you have a life, and your life has experiences, and those experiences, right, are many. They're manifold. They are consisting of many facets of experience, and they're individual to everyone, and which is okay, right? This is what life is. It's a series of experiences, and stuff happens to all of us. And there's not one individual to whom things are not happening to, either in in reference to health, in reference to one's sort of physiological functions, in reference to some things come up over and over again, and there's some things to look into, some orientations to consider, some perceptions to look into, some reframing to do. There is also our cognitive capacity, how we think about things, and what kind of a decision do we make after going through, right, options, right? So our mind creates options. It sees something, it perceives something, the body with its senses, it perceives something, and this triggers something in you, right? And you feel something about that. And so an option is presented to you. So, so there are several options. And within this, reality of having to choose, obviously, right, the capacity to how many options you can allow yourself to see is going to change your experience. So, as little ones, when we begin our life, our options are quite limited because we're not educated so much. So the capacity or how much education we have is really how much options we can see or create for ourselves and thereby collapse. So life brings us all sorts of, right, surprises, and sometimes they're predictable, unpredictable, and we have to navigate ourselves and make the best possible choice, and then get feedback. And then if the feedback is something that is conducive to your well-being, to the well-being of the environment, then you learn from that, and that learning provides you a further reflection of what you did right. And sometimes we, even though with the best intentions and a decent amount of virtue we include in our actions, and we still get an unexpected result. It sort of shakes you. You say, this is not what I expected. I've done my absolute best. I've acted out of best intentions, and this is what has come. And then, we have to then manage. How do we then, accommodate? How do we accommodate something that has not kind of turned in your favor, and you have still done your part to the best of your ability? And so, then there's another attitude. Then you have to, for example, in chapter 12, Krishna says, then look at what we call karma paladata, renounce the fruits of your actions. Recognize there's a much larger order here than just a simple sort of a black or white, this is how things are supposed to be, things are not going my way, and I want things to go my way, right? Relinquishing this sense of limited ways of looking at the world, understanding that your experience is a product of millions and millions of causes that have taken place since time immemorial, cycles upon cycles. Your experience now is a product of that. And everyone that you're connected to is furthermore not just a random person that's in your life. There's a reason for whoever you know. There's a reason for that. You may be sort of, talking the same language. You may be supporting each other at some level or the other. And then you also even move on. Sometimes we have, some individuals are in our life and they play out their part. You also play out your part. And then you realize, well, I've moved on, I've grown, and now I'm attracted to a different environment. I'm attracted to a different set of, individuals, to a different set of, whatever it is, knowledge. And thereby you again make another decision in a way that is conducive for your well-being, but at the same time is not dismissive of this other person. It's not like you just let them go and say goodbye, adios, right? So constantly we're required to make an intelligent decision that is, right, conducive to your growth, that doesn't discount the world in a way that leaves a scar, whether it is in yourself or in the other person. And so like this, right, we go and we try to do the best we can. Now, what happens is the more we do this, the more we sort of, more situations come. But as more situations come, it's, the question then arises, well, then where's the time to look at myself, right? Am I looking at myself, or am I just addressing, one situation after another, trying to make the best of it? And so what the author then wants to do is he wants to kind of pause our, our life just for an extra 1.25 of an hour and ask, well, what is it that makes these decisions? What is it that emotes? What is it that has this sense of continuity of I am, right? We call this the ahamkara. In Latin, it's called the ego, right? The sense of I, the subject, right? What is it that experiences pain or sensations, or now, and then knowing like what it is, what do I do with it? Do I just sort of discard it and say, oh, this is not I, I'm not the body mind, or see, this is pseudo, by the way, just to kind of look at it and say, no, I'm not the body mind. It's very shallow to look at it like this. Or to acknowledge there is a reality called decision maker, the subject. There is a reality called the emotive, the cognitive ability, the emotions. There is a reality called memory. There is a reality called the waker. There is a reality called the dreamer, right? They are all there. Right? I need not put them into some sort of, unillusionary reality, and therefore all of my illusions are now, irrelevant, and nothing really matters here because it's all, one big story. Nothing ever happened, right? All of this, right? It's pseudo-spiritual. Suppose I tell to you, this is all just all of the decisions you've ever made, right? All of this whole dealing with life, and making decisions and going, your way, trying to do the best you can. All of this is so irrelevant because it's like, it's not you, right? Nothing ever happened. Now, suppose a teacher tells you this, right? In what way could this possibly, how would a student interpret this, right? Suppose now the student obviously is vulnerable, right? They want to, make the best of their experience. And the student hears this and they say, well, nothing really matters. I'm doing the best I can, but what does it matter if I do the worst or the best? Because it's not, I'm sort of free from all of that. And so, in other words, what the teacher says has a direct behavior and decision-making process on the part of the student. So obviously, see, in this tradition, we don't make these like one short liner statements, which what they produce a sense like a very limited individual, an individual who looks at it and it's like this or it's like that. So in Vedanta tradition, we don't discard anything as illusionary, because if you're in illusion, then I'm also an illusion. Then why would you be listening to an illusion? Because you're just hearing illusion, more illusion. Who's supporting more illusion, right? So all we're trying to do here is just gain some clarity in respect to our decision maker, our emoter, our feeler, our the functional reality called the ahamkara, the I sense. You're just gaining clarity about it. Seeing it is just a functional reality within the big picture. And I need not discard anything because everything is within the order of the whole. So where's the question of discarding one thing and calling it like, unreal and saying this is real and this is unreal? You see, so in other words, you're just seeing things for what they are. That's all this tradition requires one to do, just to see things as they are, not to make more of it, because even to make more of it, again, the individual's going back into their minds, right? They go into their minds from their own little subjectivity and trying to make it bigger than it is. So when the author says, right, Atma, it says the three bodies, right? So the three, how does it say? It says Atma is distinct from the three bodies. Okay, so this is very important. It says you are distinct from the three bodies. Now, notice it doesn't say the three bodies are distinct from you. There's a big difference there. Why? Because suppose I say to you, okay, so let me just get my drawing quickly. All right, it's good that I noticed this because it would have been an error to say that the three bodies are distinct from Atma. No, Atma is distinct from the three bodies. So let's look at this table. Suppose I say, can I say this table, listen carefully, this table is distinct from the wood? Okay, I see Mina. Good. I see. I can read your lips, right? So it's okay. Whether you say it or not, I still know. Okay, Rick is shaking head. All right. So this table is distinct from the wood. Where's the problem in saying that, if there is one? Right. The table is distinct from the wood. What table, right? What table? What table? The whole thing is just wood. You understand? There's no such thing as table. Why do you call it a table if there's no such thing as table? Because you have to call it something to differentiate from something else that's also made out of wood. You can't just call the whole world wood, 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 wood. Hey, let me sit on wood. Let me eat wood. Let me draw on wood. Let me, sleep on a wooden wood. So you have to create these names. So if I were to say the table is distinct from the wood, then there's a flaw there. The entirety of this object is nothing but the wood. Therefore, what do we say? The wood is distinct from the table. Why? Because in actuality, the entire object which we attribute a name onto, which is the table, the entire object is but the wood. So when it says Atma is distinct from the three bodies, what is it doing? It's giving reality to the content, which by a certain process, which we will discuss later, a certain process, it manifests itself as what we call a package called Claudia, a package called Julie, a package called Vishal, a package called Andre. So in other words, it's like the wood, right? Obtains as a figurine of a little person, of a cup, of a fork, and all of them are just wood. And so when you say the three bodies, when Atma is distinct from the three bodies, what we are doing is we're giving reality to Atma. And we said Atma is the content of all things. When do we say this? We said Atmakaha Sat Chit Ananda Svarupaha. Sat Chit Ananda, existence, awareness, is the content of all things. Okay. And then it says, what are these three bodies? Okay, because the next verse is going to say what is the three bodies, right? What is this? What is the stula? What is the what's the karana? All of this. But let me just give you a little introduction. Okay. So what does this sharira, this word sharira? Sharira is, see, it means there's two definitions. One, a container. This is a more standard definition, but specifically, it means that which decays. It decays. Now, why am I giving you, I'm going to give you the Sanskrit words also. Why? Because as is, my responsibility is not just to talk English, because I know that you will be studying, hopefully, furthermore in your future. I know you'll be exposed to a lot more teachings in the future. If I don't tell you the Sanskrit words now, then by the time you get to the Sanskrit word in the future, no doubt you will, then, right, then you say, well, I don't know this, and what is this, and, you know, how does this relate to the body? So therefore, I will tell you both terms. So the word sharira, right, because it says stula sharira, sukshma sharira, karana sharira, it means that which decays. So therefore, how do we look at these bodies which undergo change? They go through modification, they go through changes, they go through the process of decay, they go through aging, right? Sometimes they're in a favorable format, sometimes they're in unfavorable format. In fact, let's get off these words favorable, unfavorable, because this is all subjectivity anyway. They just undergo a certain process of change according to the order, which is beyond our control. We do have some impact in our body, right? What foods we put into our bodies. But do you really control, right, how quickly your physical body decays? Can you slow that down, right? Can you like significantly slow that down? Maybe a little bit, right? I mean, they say, eat the proper foods and don't expose, yourself too much to the sun, and all of these small mini advices. Now, I don't know how much they work. I actually don't know. But let's suppose we have a little bit of, right, control how fast or slow it can decay, right? However, still, if you leave your body alone, it will still go through a order of decay, of repair, of regeneration on its own. So obviously there's a order and intelligence that is irrespective of your intervention. And this intelligence, right, is what determines how fast your body will decay, when, how much, when cancer will even strike, because all of this is in our genes, right? It could even be a potential within our genetical framework. And there's a certain time in our, suppose, right, in our life where a gene which was holding the potential to be cancerous, that potential now starts to fructify. Because why? Because the body in which it's found has not accounted many, health practices onto itself. For example, it didn't eat the right foods, ate a lot of junk food, a lot of oil. It smoked, and it's sort of, breathing polluted air and working in hazardous condition. So all of this doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's going to collapse the potential for cancer, but it certainly contributes to collapsing the potential for cancer. So yes, there is some level of intervention, right, that you can sort of, hold that potential from manifesting. But end of the day, how much control you and I have, that is impossible to tell. So therefore, there is some level of objectivity, even in reference to our health, right? What happens to like our eyes? Like, we don't know when cataract might arise in the eye, or how, whether you're going to be farsighted or short-sighted. Do you choose that? Right? I'm going to choose, I prefer to be short-sighted and not farsighted, because I read books. We don't choose this. It just happens according to its order, to an intelligent order that is holding all of our organs together, determining how many cycles per minute the heart is to beat, determining, which which direction and how much does the heart have to pump in order to counter the pull of gravity, and at what time you will wake up, which is further dictated by what season you're in and what country you live in and what environment you're in. And then, how fast would your food digest? How, do you control that? In 1 hour, my food's going to digest. In 5 hours, my food's going to digest. You can say whatever you want. There is still an order, an intelligence that is, that is in which your body is regenerating, growing, and repairing itself. So there is this order that has to be acknowledged, which we call Ishvara, or the cause of the universe, which we will, of course, bring a little bit later. But for now, so this sharira is what? That which decays. And how many shariras are there? There is the stula. Stula means the gross. This is your gross anatomy. And what is the stula? It is that which can be perceived by your physical senses. Not only do I perceive my stula through my physical eyes, I also perceive your stula through the physical eyes, and vice versa. And even a dead body, a body that is no longer alive, is also stula. But what is the difference between a dead body and a body right now? Because you're looking at a stula right now, but what is making this body alive and dynamic? What's making it dynamic? Right? This is called, again, I see Mina speaking. This is Sukshma Sharira. Okay? So this is the subtler form of the Sharira. We call this, in English, a subtle body, right? We have to give it some name. And so anything that grows or dies, therefore has a Sukshma Sharira. For example, a rock cannot die because a rock never came with a Sukshma Sharira. Or suppose you have 5 trees in your garden. Imagine you have a garden and you plant 5 trees, and those trees grow, and they're big trees, thick, substantial trees. And you decide to cut one of them to build yourself a table. And so you cut the tree, build yourself a table. It's a lovely table. Family loves it. You even paint the table, top-notch table. And then you say, hey, family, let's go on a holiday for 5 years. And so the whole family goes on holiday. You have a great time. And all of you come back home in 5 years. Now, what happened to the 4 other trees outside your garden in 5 years? They all grew. Kids, get on the tree. Now you can go and have all of the fun. The branches are not going to break. Have a lot of fun. And the kids are loving it. But then, has your table grown? Why not? Imagine that, right? Oh my God, the table has grown so much now. What do I do with this? This is, and I have to go, kind of polish the table down. Your table has not grown because you cut that tree. In other words, you severed the Sukshma Sharira. You severed the subtle body. So whatever grows has a subtle body. Your table has not grown. Why? Because your table that my laptop is on right now, that your computer is on right now, does not have a subtle body. And then this stula, this physical body, when do we identify with our physical? When is Atma most identified with the physical body? It is indeed in the waking state. In other words, the waking state is mostly about the physical body. We speak about our physical body. We polish our physical body. We go to the doctor to take care of our physical body. Anything that the physical body presents to us, it becomes almost a priority. It's almost impossible to live, very hard to live with a discomfort of a physical body and trying to, run your life. So this is why the pharmaceutical industry is so big, because who wants to experience pain? And therefore, this physical body becomes a prominent identifier in the waking state. Now, how do we know this? Because when you go to dream, that pain that was there in the physical state, in the waking state, is that pain there in the dream? No. All pain related, all back pain, headache, all of that is gone in the dream. No connection to the physical body whatsoever in the dream. And through this, right, the rishis have inferred that therefore, when there's no identification with the physical body in the dream state. Okay. And then we have sukshma. Sukshma is sukshma actually means tiny, but for the sake of relating, it's actually subtle. That's very subtle. And what is subtle? It means what is invisible to your physical senses. Your physical eyes cannot perceive emotion. Emotion can be seen through the physical body, but I cannot see the cause that is making your physical body cry or smile, or I cannot see your physical thoughts, but I can see your physical movement of the lips, and I can hear the physical words, but those are expressions of something that's much subtler, and which is what's called the subtle body, the subtle sukshma sharira. And this sukshma sharira, it has several functions. I will mention that a little bit later. But this like your emotions and right, your doubting and so on, but we'll cover that a little bit later. This sukshma sharira has no weight. It cannot be measured. It is something that, how do we know it is not your physical body? Because your physical body can be in a physical class, but where's the mind? Where's this sukshma sharira? It's on something that has happened today or yesterday or with my family. And this is very common, right? And then we say, I totally tuned out. I zoned out. Now, what is it that has zoned out? That's called the sukshma sharira. The physical body was very much present in the physical class, but there was something else that was somewhere totally else. It was in a different country, for all we know. Therefore, that which goes somewhere is obviously not localized, or it's not completely bound by the physical body. That's what we call the subtle body. Okay? And this subtle body is when do we most identify with the subtle body? Our emotions and our inclinations, our desires and addictions and unconscious stuff. All of the unconscious stuff also, expresses through the mind. When do we most identify with this? It's actually not in your waking state. It is more so in the dream state. Now, if you and I could remember our dreams, and some of us do, what are dreams? They are nothing but perfect one-to-one ratio of the true state of your mind. There is no state of, I need to sort of hold myself together so that you don't perceive me in the wrong way. All of these inhibitions, all of these filters are gone. The dream is a pure reflection of how you really are. So if you want to sort of, go in a dream and start playing, and walk through walls, well, that's a potential indicator or a symbol of something, maybe an expression that I want to be free. I want to get out of my house. I don't know. It could be something. So this subtle body, we have this identification with in our dream state. And so we can then use this dream to recognize what are some potential, some things that I could look at in my life, in the waking state, of course, that could help me move forward in a graceful manner. What is it that's bothering me in the dream? So dream is not entirely a useless phenomena. In fact, it is healing. A dream is not only to work out all of your stuff that's happened in the day, it's also it serves as a psychological doctor. It's like a psychological doctor that sorts all of the messy thoughts together. It gives them some order, and it prepares your mind next morning to start afresh and new. So the repair and organization happens in the dream state. And those who are learning, suppose you're learning something, like a language or something, whatever it is, you're learning something. What the memory experts will say is, in order to remember something, what's recommended is to learn it while you're obviously awake, but then to sleep it over, give it some time to sleep it over, let the dream process that, and then next morning do your speech or do your presentation, because the next morning you had this intervening psychological doctor to rearrange all of these thoughts, put them in the right place in the mind, and therefore you're a little bit fresher to speak about this with a sense of confidence in the next 24 hours or whatever. Okay. And that's the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body. All right, and then the causal body, we spoke about briefly last time, and we will talk about the causal in more detail later. But for now, causal, we said, is ignorance. The causal body is called ignorance. It's called I don't. What is ignorance? Ignorance is what? I don't know. That's all ignorance is. I don't know. So ignorance is always in reference to something. I don't know. What don't you know? Well, I don't know whatever it is that I don't know. I don't know my nature. I don't know what's going to come tomorrow. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to eat. I don't know what house to live in, whatever it is, right? So I don't know. So, and what do we say in the waking state? What happens? How is this ignorance expressed in the waking state? It's expressed as there is awareness of being ignorant. There is awareness of, in the presence of awareness, there is ignorance. In the presence of awareness, don't know. So what does this mean? Awareness is not covered by don't know. Awareness is not covered by ignorance. There is awareness that don't know who or what I am. What does this mean? Awareness is not covered by the notion of don't know who I am. Understand? There is awareness of do know. Okay? So awareness is not covered by do know. So now in the waking, therefore, we demonstrate that awareness, you, Atma, are not covered by don't know. Otherwise, one could never say don't know. And in the deep sleep, how is this ignorance conveyed? There is awareness that there is no subject called Andre. There is awareness, there is no subject called Charles. There is awareness, there is no subject called Saskia. You understand? And who is the subject? That's called your name right now, who there is an identification with in this waking state. So when I say subject, all I really mean is, right, the sense of I, the person with a name. More specifically, in Vedanta, when we say subject, this subject has several names, and you may want to note them down now, because teachers will often sort of interchange subject, jiva, pramata, knower, ahamkara. It's like, what's a subject? All of them mean subject. So what is a subject? Subject, pramata, ahamkara, ego, what else did I say? Knower, okay? Jiva, all of this means subject, the person, and what now specifically, what is the subject made of? And also there's one more word that we're also called Chidabhasa, reflected consciousness. Can also be added into the subject, reflected consciousness, the reflected consciousness. Okay, I don't use this word because it forces the mind to create some reflection like a mirror or something, but they all mean subject. Now, what is specifically the subject? Subject means Atma, right, operating through the Sukshma Sharira. Atma pervading the Sukshma Sharira equals subject. So right now, suppose, right now, we just suppose field of consciousness. I'm just going to say one consciousness. And in consciousness, right, in this field of consciousness, which is Atma, awareness, right? Awareness, consciousness, they're the synonymous words. There are minds, one mind, another mind, and another mind. So for simplicity, I'm going to create only 3 minds. Yes, there's 8 billion minds. That's too much. There's 3 minds. Julie mind, Mina mind, Andre mind. One consciousness. So there's Julie mind, Mina mind, Andre mind. One consciousness. So from the standpoint of Julie's mind, what does Julie say? I am. From the standpoint of Mina's mind, what does Mina say? I am. From the standpoint of Andre's mind, what does Andre say? I am. But with the I am, what comes? All of the stuff that's attached to Julie's mind, all of the stuff that's attached to Mina's mind, all of the stuff that's attached to Andre's mind. So not only is there a sense of I am, but on top of this I am, there is the stuff attached onto this I am, which is this Sukshma Sharira. In fact, it's not only the Sukshma Sharira, it's also the Sthula Sharira. All right, so that's why we say I am tall. So in other words, what's attached to the I am? The physical body, the height of the physical body. I am smart. What's attached to I am? The quality of the intellect. Okay, so that is the subject. Okay, and then it ends the verse with Pancha Kosha Atitaha. Pancha Kosha Atitaha. So before I get to this word Atitaha, which means transcends, Atma transcends the 5 koshas. You're going to say, what does transcend mean? I'll get to that in a minute. So what is this 5 kosha model? And what does the word kosha mean in the first place? Kosha means cover, just cover, okay? So it says, Atma transcends the 5, you could say the 5 layers of experience. Atma transcends the 5 layers of experience. So what is this layers now? Okay. Every individual has millions of experiences, tons and tons of experiences. As I started out this session, I said we all have experiences. Now, these experiences can be put into 5, more or less, right? You can put it into different categories. But in this model, in this Vedic model, you can put it into more or less 5 different layers of experience. And what are these 5 layers? There's the body layer, there's, so on. But before I get to these layers, what is the purpose of this model? That's a more important question. So we're now sharing this 5 kosha model. The question is, what is the purpose of sharing the 5 kosha model? The kosha model wants to let you know where is the mistake committed. Where does the I keep on being placed, and thereby it becomes a problem. It becomes something that, I want to sort of look into constantly without giving me a chance to enjoy myself. So where is the I keep on being placed? And it is in one of these 5 layers. And therefore, it becomes a kosha, it becomes a cover only when I gets identified with one of these 5. So for an ignorant, right, one who's yet to approach this knowledge and figure things out and get some clarity, for that one, it becomes a kosha, it becomes a cover. Whereas for a wise person, it is not a kosha, it is a sharira. What is a sharira? Sharira is that which decays. Therefore, for a wise fella, they also have these 5 layers, just like an unwise fella has. But what's the difference? For the unwise fella, the eye keeps on being placed in one of these 5, and thereby whole life becomes about addressing these 5, which is okay and it's necessary. However, for the wise fella, they also address the physiological functions, the body, the mind. You keep your mind healthy, right? But at the same time, right, I understand that despite their presence, cognitively understand, despite their presence, they do not define I. They do not define me. That's the only difference. Therefore, when it says atitaha, pancha kosha atitaha, Atma transcends the 5. What is this transcend? Is this about parking yourself in some magical reality, some special experience? I've now transcended my body-mind. I'm not the body-mind. Is this what it's about? Not at all. It just means despite the presence, despite the experience of these 5, they do not define who I am. They are the experience for all individuals in this world. They will continue being the experience for all individuals in the future. They were the experience of all individuals 500 years ago, 600 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. There will always be these experiences, except they do not define me in this, while I am living. They are there and I address them to the best of my abilities. I don't push them. I don't ignore them. I don't call them, I am not the body. I am not the mind. This is totally unnecessary. Just recognize they are there as a functional reality, but I do not sort of get caught up and turn them into the end of life, right? They're there to be taken care of and polished and kept healthy. However, they do not define me. Now, what are these 5 that one identifies with? And now, one more point I want to mention. So last week you mentioned, it's a little bit of an off topic, but you said, Brahman. I don't understand how Brahman can have ignorance, right? Let's go back to the Koshas. Suppose you have an entire ocean, right? A lovely, huge ocean of, what's an ocean made out of? What's the content of the ocean? It is the water, right? Okay. And in this ocean, you have, one wave. So every wave is going to be nothing but the water. Can the wave ever discover anything other than the water? It can imagine itself to be different from the water, but is it actually different from the water? No, it's never different. Whether it doesn't matter what it believes, even its belief is a thought made out of water. So it is helplessly the water already. It cannot do anything about being what it already is and can never not be anything but that. It can never be anything but the water. So suppose this wave, right, which is the water. So it's already what? It's already the content. It's already enjoying the content from which all things are made. Suppose this wave, with its waterish mind, has a waterish thought and says, I am not the water, right? Does that in any way define the water? Does that define the water that obtains through and through the entire ocean? To whom does that notion belong? To that one single wave. So to whom does ignorance belong? It does not belong to the water. It belongs to that one single wave. Now, when I say ignorance, what does ignorance mean? How is ignorance possible? Very simple. Suppose I say to you now, 1 plus 2 equals 8. 1 plus, and I say with confidence, 1 plus 2 equals 8. So 1 plus 2 equals 8, and I continue like everything is okay, there's nothing wrong. So what happened? Is that true? Is that factually true? No. But from whose standpoint is it true? It is from my standpoint. So what did I do in my little mind? I took 2 facts And through my own kind of logic, I made a distortion, and then I bought into that distortion, and I'm holding onto that distortion without rechecking the facts. Therefore, I walk around in this world saying 1 + 3 = 8 with total confidence. Nobody's really listening to me. And I'm like, yeah, that's their problem. So in other words, owing to my own ignorance, I've created a notion that everyone else is wrong. But in actuality, the error belongs to none other than myself. So what do I need to do? Go back into the class and straighten those facts out. And that class is, of course, in this tradition called Vedanta. So in other words, all ignorance is taking facts of reality and making a personal, convoluted conclusion out of them, and then not checking them. Therefore, the problem belongs to that single wave. It does not belong to the entire ocean. Ignorance belongs to the Jiva. It does not belong to, in what you said, Brahman. So what are these 5 layers? What are these 5 locusts of mistakes? Or what are these 5 layers that offer themselves as locusts for committing a mistake? Locust for in which I put my eye in, and therefore the mistake gets committed. What are they? It starts out with Anamaya. Anamaya. I'm giving you the Sanskrit intentionally because that's how they're taught. Ana means food, and Maya, again, this has to be addressed because the word, I'm not talking about Maya, right, the power. I'm talking about Maya without 2 long A's here. Maya has, in this context, 2 definitions. The first definition is saturation or full of. Definition 2 is modification. So suppose I say to you now, your body is, and I stick to definition 1, full of food. Right, your bones are full of food, your blood is full of food, everything's full of food. Is that true? No, I don't see, masalas and dosas and chapatis and carrots and cucumbers in your body. I see under the microscope, I see cells and bone marrow and calcium and protein and mitochondria. I see everything that is other than the food. Therefore, it cannot be definition 1, saturated by food. It cannot be full of food. It is definition number 2, which means modification of food. In other words, what is your physical body? It is a body. How is it formed? It is formed by the conversion, modification of food into calcium, into bone marrow, into cells, into brain, into lungs, into so on. Therefore, Anamaya Kosha means modification of food, and that modification of food becomes a locust in which, or it offers itself as a locus for committing a mistake, for putting my eye in. Therefore, it's not like your physical body intentionally says, I'm going to be here to make you ignorant, right? I'm going to make you ignorant, and therefore I'm going to manifest myself in which you can put your eye in. No, it's just there innocent. Were the physical body not here, then mistake would have never been committed. But you know what? There is a physical body, isn't there? Therefore, it becomes one more mistake in which offers itself innocently. It's not trying to. It's just by its virtue of being present, it offers itself as a locus for committing a mistake. Therefore, what is this borrowing from software, 5 stacks and iterations? Okay, so are you talking about like programming, design, and software layers, like an operating system, maybe? I think what Bao is saying is, software, like your operating system, you can have layers, right? Layers of other software, and then you kind of get lost in these windows in the operating system. And so each one of them offers themselves as a locus for forgetting that you're even using Mac or Windows. Maybe that's sort of a metaphor there. But anyway, so it's a layer. It's a layer by which, is offering itself to commit a mistake. So therefore, for the unwise, this anamaya kosha becomes this. In fact, let's not use the word kosha. For the unwise, this anamaya, does it become a kosha or a sharira? A kosha. It becomes a cover. Why? Because when you say things like, I am tall, we don't say I'm the body, but we say I'm tall, I'm white, I'm Indian, I'm black, I am Caucasian, I'm ugly, I'm beautiful. All of this is indicative of putting the I into the modification of food. For the wise person, it is still anamaya, but it is a sharira. It is just an objective reality provided, which has to be dealt with, not to be ignored, not to be dismissed, but I just see it as a modification of food. It's a lovely, thank God it's here, but let's not create complexes about it by creating, extra stories like, oh, I need to sort of, decorate it and polish it, and which is fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but it becomes a potential locust when, it turns into a sort of, a concern, right? Concern for, beautifying and going to the gym and building up and and showing off, which is of course for those individuals. See, we're not here to criticize anyone. For those individuals, they need to do that for their own growth. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, we very nicely state that the first step to your spiritual progress is just getting out of this dark inertia. We call it tamaguna. Just get out and act. And so even things like going out into the world and making money and bodybuilding, even this is better than sitting on a computer, eating pizzas and not having any willingness to engage and participate and be exposed to the world. So we can see that everything has its wonderful place, and there is simply no reason to, to sort of call it something, because everyone was at that stage, and that stage eventually leads you to something different. In fact, I knew a bodybuilder who was not only a bodybuilder, he was a bouncer, and he just got out of this job of being a bodybuilder and a bouncer, and he was very thoughtful. He was a very a lot of empathy and love coming from this guy. There was a lot of gentleness coming. And I was surprised, like so much gentleness and accommodativeness coming from this fella. And he was, this big guy. And and I thought how wonderful that he used this bodybuilding to bring him to a certain point, to see that, there has to be more to bodybuilding. And so he went through a couple of years of this, and then through that, he moved into the spiritual path. So you can see how lovely anything, no matter how sort of, how worldly it seems, how it can lead you to the next part of life. All right, and then pranamaya kosha, prana. Prana just means, see again, you got prana and maya. Prana is just a model. Please understand these are models. There is hundreds of different models. There is the 3 humors model in Ayurveda. There's homeopathy model. There's Qigong medicine model. Prana Maya is just a model, right? And what model is this? There is like digestion, right? Your circulation and respiration and excretion, right? These are just there to point out the reality which you're experiencing. No more, no less. It is not to be discarded. It's just to objectify it, and thereby it doesn't offer itself as a locus for committing a mistake anymore. That is all. Yeah, vayus. Now, Vayu reminds me, see, in Pranamaya Kosha, I think this is what you want to say, but I'm not sure. But sometimes they say, Vayu like vital air. Please don't call it vital air. What do you mean vital air? What is unvital? What is not vital air, right? Because sometimes prana is called vital air. I don't know who designed this, who came up with this. What kind of air do you want? Do you want vital air? Do you want unvital air? There's just air. So this whole vital air, get this out of vocabulary, physiological functions, Keeps it very simple. Okay. Now, how do we know that this prana is physiological functions? How do we know that this is different from your mind? I just want you to, I'm asking this just to look at the lovely logics of the rishis, how they think. They always think instead of accepting everything. So you say, how is this layer different from, say, the mind layer or the body layer? Well, suppose a person who is on a low IQ, has a low IQ, does that indicate the how healthy their prana is, how healthy digestion is, circulation is, and respiration is? Does that indicate at all? Because you can have a very uneducated person, right? And they're just run all their life. They just run. They don't read books. They just run, exercise and run. Now, I don't mean in a disrespectful way, uneducated, but you just do a lot of exercise. And their physiological functions are incredible. Man, they run in 0 degrees. They don't get sick. And you're watching from your house, the fella who's always studying, right? And you're going, how do they do this? If I go out, I'll get sick. I feel tired all day, right? So in other words, your physiological functions are irrespective of your mind, how intelligent you are, because that would mean the more intelligent you are, the better your circulation works, the better inhalation and exhalation and all of these, functions the body repairs faster and so on. Prana is also active when your mind is not there in deep sleep. How do you know? Because when you wake up, your food, has it been digested or not? Yes, your food has been digested. That means the prana was working irrespective of the absence of the mind. In fact, this prana, what do we do today? We have a pharmaceutical industry that even deals with the 5 different pranas. And what are they? We have erectile dysfunction. What is this? A lack of circulation to a certain body part. So what do? They prescribe a $1 billion industry for one single, which is what? Vyana. Vyana is circulation. And then another $1 billion industry for digestion, right? Digestion, samana. And then another $1 billion industry for apana. We call this, maybe it's not billion, but it's for excretion. Or for it's whatever, excretion, circulation, digestion. All of these 5, there's a $1 billion industry just to address to stimulate the physiological function in just one of them. So again, you see, in other words, there's no need to criticize these industries. They're just there to address the different components that make up the human body. That's all. And then we have manas. Manas means mind. Mano maya. Without the sani, it is manaha maya. Manas or just manas. Manas maya. This will be talked about a little bit later, but it is emoting and doubting. And there's a few more things there with the manas. Right. So whenever you doubt or you have should I or should I not? Should I go now or should I go in 5 minutes? Should I confront and ask a question, or should I hold back and ask in a couple of minutes? And then when you finally make a decision, what happens? It becomes your buddhi. It becomes vijnana maya. It becomes the intellect. So 2 modes obtain in the mind. In the should we call it the right? 2 modes obtain. One of them is a mode that is more flexible. It's more fluid. That's called the mind. That's why we say, make up your mind. Make up your mind. Why do we say this? Make up your mind. Because the fella is still in a fluid mode. They haven't settled their thoughts. And therefore we say, make up your mind. Add some decision, right? Add some knowledge, add some information on which you can rest your mind. And so this information has not come in yet. In fact, when we are in doubt mode, what do? We research, do we not? We are acquiring information to make up our minds. Therefore, we want to convert that fluid mode of of thought into a more stable thought of mode of thought, which is called your buddhi, or the vijnana maya kosha. This is in the book, so you'll see how to spell this. All right. Now, this buddhi or vijnana maya also produces this sense of doing. So right now, I see some people writing, and then you say, I am, I think I'm, because writing is nothing but a thought, right? To write things down, you have to know how to do that. It's actually an action, or to walk. We take walking for granted, don't we? But you actually thinking while walking, right? Now, sometimes you see, fellows who are sort of intoxicated, right? What happens in intoxicants? It suppresses the buddhi, and therefore walking becomes much harder. It is operating on a mere sort of an automatic. There's no thoughtfulness how to walk, coherently and so on. So now this doing, I am doing the thinking. So what is thinking? Thinking is buddhi. So whenever one identifies with doer, right? I am doing the walking, doing the thinking, doing the inquiry, doing the analysis, doing the writing, doing the programming, doing the research. All of this requires this buddhi, this thought. Therefore, it too becomes a locus for committing a mistake. How so? When I take myself as the one who has done this. Look at my work. I have written this report. I have done this report. I have done this analysis. I have done this therapy. I've done this class, right? Therefore, that too becomes a locus for committing a mistake. And what else did I want to say? Anandamaya. Anandamaya. We can call this the bliss sheath, the ananda, the bliss sheath or the happiness sheath. Okay, in this case, the word ananda, remember I gave you two definitions. Definition one was bliss or happiness, and definition two was fullness or limitless. We did this earlier in the earlier class. I think it was reversed, I'm not sure, but it was two definitions. In this case, it is just experiential kind of bliss, experiential kind of happiness. And what is this Anandamaya? It expresses as different degrees of happiness. And the book will soon give us 3 degrees of happiness. Now, never mind how many degrees, there's a million degrees. More or less, you have to give it some number, right? And in this case, they give it 3 degrees of happiness. Priya, Moda, and Pramoda. So what is this Priya form of happiness? Priya is, for example, when someone says, hey, what do you want to eat today? And then you call out your favorite dish, right? And they say, no problem, I will make that, or we will buy that today. Now, it's coming, but it's not concrete, right? So it's sort of far away, but there is some form of happiness there. Now, suppose you guys order that on Uber Eats, and you see the fella kind of, or the Amazon package, right? The delivery man is now, bringing the package in his hand, and you see this in your hands. Oh, they have it in their hands, and my desire is, in those hands right there. And it's coming. I'm now more happy, right? This is Moda. So before I ordered the package, it's coming, I'm happy, it's going to come today, but it's very far away. And now, oh, he's in the distance, he's coming up my driveway. Excellent. He's coming up the stairs. I'm more happy. And then what happens when the food is in your mouth, when you are fully with this experience, when you've unwrapped the package, threw the cartoons away, and you're turning on the phone, your maximum happiness. Therefore, it gives you here, so Priya, Moda, and Pramoda, this is maximum happiness. So it wants to just point out where is another locus for committing a mistake. putting my eye into the happiness. In fact, this is the big thing in the spiritual world, right? Let's have a happy experience. Let's go into meditation and stay in meditation for hours and hours. Let's sort of, feel awesome. Let's go into ecstatic dance. Let's go into the 5 rhythm dance. Very fun things. They provide you a lot of ananda. However, what happens? I want another hit. I want another hit. I want another time. Therefore, this too is where the I gets placed in experiential happiness. Therefore, I am now bound by a very limited form of happiness, right? It is happiness. It is healthy. It is fun. It is all fun and, lovely. However, for a wise person is able to enjoy this happiness when it comes, but he doesn't, or she doesn't say, oh, I am this and now I want another hit. They don't hoard after experiences in order to define who they are. In fact, in the spiritual world, right, more or less, what will happen is I need an experience in order to define who I am. This is a big thing, I tell you. I need some spiritual awakening, which is always going to be ananda, isn't it? Who wants to chase for, some kind of a terrible experience? So whenever we say I want a spiritual awakening, it always implies what? Ananda identification. So I want to identify with a pramoda, with a huge amount of happiness to define who I am. So therefore, this too becomes a mode or a locus for committing a mistake. Right. And therefore, now atitaha, what does this mean? Atma transcends these 5 layers. Atma transcends, you transcend these 5 layers. It doesn't mean that you're now somewhere. It doesn't now mean go off and start to be above these 5 experiences. Don't ever feel happiness again, because if you do, I tell you, you are not enlightened, right? Don't ever feel pain, because if you do, I tell you, you are not enlightened, right? This is not what it means. Atma transcends the 5 means despite experiencing these 5, cognitively, I understand, they do not define me. They're just there because there is an intelligent order. And thank God this order is here, because it allows me to transcend these 5 when I come to the class and I think about this, right? Thank God it's there. I allow it to be there for the rest of my life. It will bring emotions. It will bring experiences. It will bring, whatever happens, it doesn't matter. It will trigger something in one of these 5. And where is this knowledge? It comes and says, despite them, I allow them to happen. I address them to the best of my ability. And that is my duty, right? To sustain the well-being of these 5 layers, but it does not define who I am. And this is what the verse wants to conclude and just kind of reassure us and bring some clarity in reference to our experience. It doesn't want to dismiss anything, but actually wants to include it, but how so? In a proper light, how in a light that is conducive and healthy for you. Okay. Thereby, one can still experience this without making too many complexes about it. All right. And now next week, what are we going to do? Now we can speed up, right? So I gave you a solid framework, and now we can just add small details on this framework, and this will start next week. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.